It wasn't every day that a human was summoned before the grand court of Queen Galaxara, ruler of the shimmering, star-filled empire known as the Nebulan Constellate. For one thing, most humans had never even heard of her. For another, those who had, well, they were usually too busy being abducted for scientific experiments to tell the tale. But not Leo Finnegan. Leo, a rather average Earthling with a slight obsession with late-night conspiracy theories and a fondness for tequila, woke up that fateful day strapped to what could only be described as an alien throne chair. It was massive, glowing, and honestly, quite comfortable. A group of small, purple-skinned attendants with 3 eyes and little metallic skirts were whispering amongst themselves, shooting curious glances his way. "Where the hell am I?" Leo muttered, shaking his head in disbelief. His last memory involved too much salsa and possibly an alien-themed margarita bar. Typical Thursday night. One of the attendants, clearly the more serious of the bunch, stepped forward with a clipboard, or at least what looked like an alien version of a clipboard. It was floating. "You, Earthling, are in the grand chamber of Her Celestial Majesty, Queen Galaxara of Nebulan Constellate," he squeaked. Leo's eyebrows shot up. "Wait, I'm in space? I thought that UFO ride was a joke." "No joke. No joke at all," the attendant said, adjusting the metallic waistband on his glittering alien robe. "You're here because, well, we've chosen you as part of a diplomatic mission. You've been selected to entertain the Queen." "Entertain?" Leo asked, raising a brow. "Define entertain, because I'm no singer, and if you're expecting a comedy routine, I should warn you, my jokes are highly questionable." Before the attendant could respond, the towering doors at the end of the chamber swung open with a dramatic whoosh. Leo's mouth fell open as Queen Galaxara herself appeared, flanked by 2 large, armored alien guards who looked like they could bench press a moon if necessary. The Queen was, in a word, stunning. Her shimmering purple skin seemed to ripple like a galaxy in motion, and her 4 arms, yes, 4, were adorned with sparkling jewels that glowed with an otherworldly light. She moved with a grace that suggested both immense power and the knowledge that she could crush you if she wanted to, but chose not to. Yet, "You are the human?" Her voice echoed through the chamber, low and melodic, each word carrying the weight of stars. Her eyes, which glittered like twin nebulae, scanned Leo from head to toe. Yeah, I guess that's me," Leo stammered, unsure whether to bow, wave, or just sit there awkwardly. He opted for an awkward half-wave, half-bow that looked more like he was trying to play off tripping on something. The Queen raised a perfect eyebrow. "You may rise." Leo stood, his knees a little shaky. "So, why exactly did you pick me for this diplomatic mission? Is this about the time I wrote that letter to NASA about space pizza?" Queen Galaxara smiled. A small, knowing smile that made Leo's heart skip. "You amuse me, human. We have heard much of your species' humor. Your Earth is filled with such strange customs. And yet," she paused, taking a step closer, her presence overwhelming. "There is something intriguing about you." Leo gulped, trying not to think about how intriguing could mean many things, some of which involved him being turned into a science experiment. "Intriguing how?" The Queen looked at him for a moment longer, then turned dramatically toward her throne. "Your species has a unique resilience, a certain stubbornness that my advisors insist is worth studying. However," she said, her voice turning lighter, almost playful, "I have grown weary of endless analysis. I am here for entertainment, and your arrival promises me a much-needed distraction." The word distraction hung in the air between them, and Leo's brain immediately tried to interpret it in all the wrong ways. Distraction? Oh, I'm great at distracting people. I once played guitar badly in a bar until the power went out. Everyone forgot what they were doing and just watched me butcher Wonderwall for a solid 20 minutes. Galaxara tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "Wonderwall?" she asked. "What is this wall of wonders you speak of?" Leo's brain screamed internally. "Oh great, she's an alien queen and now I have to explain Oasis lyrics? It's not really a wall," he started, "more of a... Well, you just kind of stand by it and then there's wonder, I guess." He laughed nervously. But forget the wall. Why exactly am I here? Like, what kind of entertainment are we talking about? The Queen's eyes twinkled mischievously. That is for you to decide, Earthling. You see, in our court, the one who entertains the Queen best is rewarded with unimaginable pleasures. Leo blinked, unsure if he'd heard that right. Unimaginable pleasures? Like a hot tub filled with nachos? Because I gotta tell you, I've dreamed of that. The alien attendants gasped in unison. Clearly, nacho tubs were not a common thing in the Nebulan constellate. Galaxara chuckled softly. You amuse me, human, she said again, her voice dropping to a tone that made Leo's face flush. But I assure you, the rewards we offer here far surpass Earth's simple pleasures. She waved one of her arms, and a floating tray of sparkling drinks appeared. Drink. Leo eyed the tray suspiciously, unsure if it was a drink, or maybe some form of alien elixir designed to make him spill his deepest secrets. Then again, it was either that or offend the 7-foot-tall space queen who might disintegrate him on a whim. So bottoms up. The drink tasted like a mixture of honey, cinnamon, and something he couldn't quite place, like electricity crackling on his tongue. It sent a warmth through his body that made him feel bolder. Maybe too bold. You know, Leo began, leaning back in his throne chair. I wasn't expecting my Thursday night to involve meeting a queen, much less an alien one. But I gotta say, your court has a certain charm to it. Way better than karaoke night. Galaxara smirked, taking a sip of her own drink. I sense you are not so easily impressed, human. Leo grinned, leaning in just slightly. Depends. You said unimaginable pleasures. Care to give me a preview? The Queen's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, and Leo felt a strange tug in the air between them. Be careful, human, she said softly, her voice now carrying a hint of warning and promise. In my court, even jesting has consequences. But if you prove worthy, perhaps we shall both discover just how far unimaginable can go. Leo swallowed hard. Oh boy, what had he gotten himself into? Asterisk asterisk. The doors of the chamber suddenly burst open once more, and a new figure entered. A tall, lanky alien with bright green skin and multiple tentacles for arms. His name, as Leo would soon learn, was Lord Squiglox, and he was the court's chief advisor, and, as it appeared, something of an overexcited tattletale. Your Majesty! Squiglox cried, his voice high and frantic. I must protest. This Earthling, he is unworthy. He is crude, uncultured, and he smells of cheese. Leo blinked. Cheese? Really? Asterisk asterisk, this was intergalactic discrimination at its finest. The Queen raised one of her 4 hands to silence Squiglox, but there was a glimmer of amusement in her eyes as she looked back at Leo. Perhaps, Lord Squiglox, we will discover if this human has more to offer than the scent of dairy. Leo shot Squiglox a smug grin. Hey, buddy, don't knock cheese until you've tried a good queso dip. Squiglox huffed. This is no laughing matter. The fate of our diplomatic ties could rest on this moment. Yeah, no pressure, Leo muttered under his breath. And so the court watched, the Cosmic Queen's eyes twinkling, Squiglox fuming, and Leo wondering what kind of weird cosmic roller coaster he was now strapped into. Because one thing was for sure, he was in way over his head, and this alien queen had plans that went far beyond margaritas and nachos. As the cosmic court buzzed with anticipation, Queen Galaxara's eyes never left Leo. Her gaze was intense, almost predatory, like a cat playing with a mouse it found amusing but might still eat for dinner. Leo felt a bead of sweat roll down the back of his neck, which wasn't a great sign considering the Nebulan court was probably climate-controlled to perfection. So Leo began trying to break the tension. What's the next step in this diplomatic mission? Karaoke? Talent show? Or some kind of intergalactic trivia night? Lord Squiglox groaned, rolling all 6 of his eyes in unison. This is absurd, Your Majesty. The Earthling is no diplomat. His presence here is, he paused dramatically, a farce. Galaxara raised a finger, silencing Squiglox with a single gesture. You forget yourself, Squiglox. The Nebulan constellate thrives on diversity. Does it not? We must explore all forms of interaction. Her eyes flicked to Leo, and that same dangerous smile crept back onto her lips. Perhaps this Earthling can teach us more about humor, culture, and pleasure. Isn't that right, Leo? Leo felt like he was on trial, except the jury was an alien queen with questionable motives, a tentacle-faced tattletale, and a court full of purple-skinned onlookers who were waiting for him to make the next move. He had to think fast. After all, when in doubt, play it cool or at least pretend to. Well, Leo said, standing up from his throne chair, if it's humor and culture you want, I'm your guy. Earth's full of weird traditions. Have you ever heard of a little thing called speed dating? The court murmured, clearly intrigued, while Squiglox looked as if someone had just squirted lemon juice into all his eyes. Speed dating? The queen repeated, one elegant brow raised. Yeah, Leo said, warming up to his impromptu idea. It's a ritual of sorts, a human tradition where we sit down with a stranger, get to know them really fast, and decide if there's a connection. He waggled his eyebrows suggestively. There was a brief, heavy silence. Then Queen Galaxara's lips curved into a full-blown smile. Intriguing, she purred. How do you suggest we proceed with this speed dating? Leo took a deep breath. He had no idea what he was doing, but at this point, rolling with it was his best bet. Well, we need a few participants, volunteers, really. The idea is to keep it short and sweet. You ask questions, see if there's chemistry, and then, bam, decide if it's worth continuing. Squiglox practically convulsed. Your Majesty, this is absurd. Speed dating? What next? Line dancing with warp drives. But Galaxara waved him off. Silence, Squiglox. Let the human continue. Leo grinned nervously. All right, so we'll need a timer, a few questions, and, well, some participants. He looked around at the court, hoping to find a willing, or at least curious, face among the crowd. Who's up first? Queen Galaxara's eyes gleamed mischievously. I shall be the first participant, she declared, much to Squiglox's visible horror. Leo's eyes widened. Oh boy, he was not expecting the Cosmic Queen herself to be the first to dive into his improvised speed dating scenario. But there she was, stepping off her towering throne, her multiple arms gracefully settling at her sides as she approached Leo with a gaze that could melt stars. Okay. Great, Leo said, trying to keep his voice from cracking. Let's get started. First question. What's your, favorite Earth food? Queen Galaxara tilted her head, clearly giving it some serious thought. I have tasted many Earth delicacies during our surveillance missions, she said, her voice smooth. But one Earth dish in particular excites me. It is called the burrito. Leo blinked. A burrito? Yes. A small, self-contained meal that one can hold in their hands. A vessel of mystery. Will it be spicy? Will it be mild? One never knows until they take the first bite. He couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Burritos are the great gamble of human cuisine. Squiglox, who was watching with a mixture of disbelief and revulsion, whispered loudly to one of the attendants. This is madness. Ignoring him, Leo continued. Okay, next question. If you could visit anywhere on Earth, where would you go? Galaxara's expression softened, her eyes glittering like twin galaxies. I have always been intrigued by your oceans, she said. The vastness of them, the mystery that lies beneath. Much like the nebulan skies. They hold secrets yet to be discovered. Leo nodded. Yeah, the oceans are pretty cool. Full of weird stuff, though. Squids, sharks, giant squids. He glanced at Squiglox and smirked. You might feel right at home. Squiglox glared at him, his tentacles twitching. Galaxara chuckled, the sound echoing through the chamber like music. You are indeed amusing, Leo. Encouraged by her reaction, Leo decided to throw caution to the wind. All right, final question. What's the most fun thing you've ever done in your entire reign? The queen paused, her eyes locking onto his. Fun? She seemed to taste the word. I have fought intergalactic wars, conquered planets, and ruled empires. But fun? She smiled, leaning in closer to Leo. Perhaps I have yet to experience the most fun thing. Leo's heart raced. Well, he said, swallowing hard, maybe we can fix that. There was a collective gasp from the court. Even Squiglox seemed to forget his indignation for a moment, his tentacles freezing mid-twitch. But Galaxara just smiled. A slow, enigmatic smile that promised. Well, Leo didn't exactly know what it promised, but it was both thrilling and terrifying at the same time. Before he could say anything else, the queen turned to her court. Enough for now. The Earthling has entertained us. For the moment. Let him rest. Tomorrow we shall continue with more exploration. Leo exhaled, barely holding onto his composure as the queen waved her hand, signaling that his part in the day's proceedings was over. He was escorted to a lavish guest chamber by the same purple-skinned attendants who had greeted him earlier. As the doors closed behind him, Leo collapsed onto the giant, cushion-filled bed, his heart still racing. Holy crap, he muttered to himself. I think I just flirted with an alien queen. He wasn't sure whether to feel proud or terrified. Maybe a bit of both. As Leo lay there, staring up at the strange, glowing ceiling, he realized something. This was just the beginning. Galaxara had said they would continue their explorations tomorrow, but Leo had no idea what that meant. And if the Cosmic Queen was anything like she seemed, tomorrow could be even crazier than today. And somewhere, in the grand halls of the Nebulan Constellate, Queen Galaxara sat back on her throne, a smile playing on her lips as she considered the peculiar Earthling who had just stepped into her world. She was looking forward to the next day, and the many days after that. As Leo lay on the alien bed, the plush pillows surrounding him felt like clouds stuffed with stardust. He stared up at the shimmering ceiling, which shifted in colors and patterns like a living cosmic painting, his thoughts racing. He had just flirted with an alien queen, challenged intergalactic norms with an impromptu speed dating session, and somehow hadn't been vaporized by Lord Squiglox. Not bad for a guy who usually spent his Thursdays eating takeout and binge-watching conspiracy documentaries. He rolled over, trying to get comfortable, but his mind wouldn't let him rest. What did Galaxara mean by exploration? That word, especially coming from a towering space queen with 4 arms and a mischievous smile, had layers of meaning that Leo's brain wasn't sure it could fully unravel without a drink. Suddenly, a soft hiss filled the room as the door slid open. Leo bolted upright, his heart pounding again. Standing in the doorway was one of the purple-skinned attendants, this one slightly taller than the rest and holding a glowing tablet-like device. His name tag, which Leo could barely read, said Zlorx. Good evening, Earthling, Zlorx said in a surprisingly soothing voice. I trust your quarters are to your satisfaction. Leo scratched the back of his head, trying to act like this was just another normal night in space. Yeah, pretty cozy. Much nicer than my apartment back on Earth. The ceiling's doing this weird galaxy thing, though. Kinda hypnotic. Zlorx gave a small bow. The ceiling reflects the emotional resonance of the occupant. It appears you are unsettled. Leo let out a nervous laugh. Unsettled? Nah, I'm totally fine. Just, contemplating how I'm in space, flirting with a cosmic queen, and trying not to offend an alien squidman who seems to hate my guts. Normal stuff. The attendant blinked his 3 eyes, processing the comment with an eerie calm. Her Majesty wishes for you to be well rested. Tomorrow's proceedings are important. Yeah, about that, Leo said, leaning back on the pillows. What exactly does she mean by exploration? Because I've been known to explore the bottom of a tequila bottle on a Saturday night. But I'm getting the vibe that's not what she's talking about. Zlorx's expression didn't change. Her Majesty enjoys unconventional forms of diplomacy. The Nebulan Constellate has always valued creativity, and she finds your Earthling customs, especially those of courtship, most intriguing. Courtship? Leo gulped. Hold on. Is this turning into some kind of intergalactic dating show? Because I did not sign up for that. Zlorx tilted his head. In a way, you might say that the Queen is testing your compatibility. Leo's eyes widened. Compatibility? With her? Zlorx gave another slight bow. Her Majesty is selective in her companionship. You Earthling are a curiosity. Before Leo could respond, Zlorps handed him the glowing tablet. This is a list of tomorrow's activities. Review them at your leisure. The Queen wishes for you to be prepared. Leo took the tablet cautiously, as if it might explode in his hands. Activities? What kind of activities are we talking about? Zlorps smiled faintly, a glimmer of amusement in his alien features. You'll see. With that, the attendant bowed once more and exited the room, leaving Leo alone with his thoughts and the glowing tablet of doom. The next morning, Leo was awoken by a soft chime echoing through his room. He groggily sat up, rubbing his eyes and remembering, with a mix of disbelief and excitement, where he was. The tablet Zlorps had given him lay on the nightstand, still glowing faintly. Reluctantly, he picked it up and started reading the schedule for the day. Activity 1 *, a game of wits in the Stellar Gardens. Activity 2 * physical challenge in the Zero-G arena. Activity 3 * personal dinner with Queen Galaxara. Bonus round * TBA, determined by Queen's mood. Leo stared at the list, his eyes landing on the last part. Bonus round? Determined by mood. ***, this was not exactly the vacation he had planned when he daydreamed about space travel. He had barely finished reading when 2 attendants appeared at his door, ready to escort him to the first event of the day. As they led him down the grand hallways of the palace, Leo couldn't help but marvel at the strange, otherworldly beauty of it all. The walls were made of shimmering crystal, and every corner seemed to pulse with life, as if the palace itself was aware of his presence. They arrived at the Stellar Gardens, a massive outdoor space filled with floating, glowing plants, some of which looked suspiciously like they might be sentient. Queen Galaxara was already there, waiting for him, standing by a fountain that seemed to be made of liquid light. "Good morning, Leo," she said, her voice smooth as ever. "I trust you slept well?" Leo nodded, though sleep had been the last thing on his mind. "Yeah. The galaxy ceiling was pretty relaxing." Galaxara smiled. "Good. Today we begin with a challenge of intellect. I want to see how your Earthling mind works." Leo frowned. "A game of wits? I'm not exactly known for my IQ scores. Just so you know." The Queen's smile widened. "It is not intelligence alone that interests me. It is your creativity, your ability to think beyond the obvious. This garden holds many mysteries. Your task is to find the most valuable treasure hidden here." Leo glanced around the garden, which was filled with bizarre alien plants that seemed to shimmer and hum as they floated in the air. Some of them even shifted as he watched, their leaves curling in ways that seemed almost playful. "Most valuable treasure?" Leo asked, scratching his head. "What exactly does that mean?" Galaxara's eyes sparkled. "That is for you to decide." "Great. A vague, open-ended puzzle in a floating alien garden. No pressure." Leo took a deep breath and wandered deeper into the garden, eyeing the strange plants as they shimmered in the light of distant stars. One plant caught his attention, a large, flower-like structure with petals made of glowing crystal. It was beautiful, but something about it felt off, too obvious. He moved past it, scanning the garden, when he noticed something small and unassuming. A tiny, unremarkable stone sitting by a quiet pool of water. It wasn't glowing or floating, and compared to the other dazzling wonders of the garden, it seemed downright dull. But something tugged at his instincts. He picked it up. As soon as his hand touched the stone, the air around him seemed to ripple. The garden fell silent. Leo turned, holding the stone out to Galaxara. "This," he said, "is the most valuable treasure." The court, watching from the sidelines, gasped. Even Squiglox, who had been standing with his arms crossed and a look of disdain on his tentacled face, seemed taken aback. Galaxara's smile widened, and she stepped closer to Leo, her eyes gleaming. "Explain your choice." Leo swallowed, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "It's simple," he said. "Everything else in this garden is trying too hard to be special. But this stone is just here. It doesn't need to glow or float to be valuable. It's comfortable being what it is." The Queen regarded him for a long moment, her eyes studying him with an intensity that made his heart race. Finally, she nodded. You are more clever than you appear, Leo. Leo exhaled, relieved. Does that mean I passed? Galaxara laughed softly. For now. But there are still more challenges ahead. Leo grinned. Yeah, I saw the schedule. Physical challenge next, right? I should warn you. I skipped leg day a lot. The Queen's smile took on a more playful edge. Good. You'll need all your strength in the zero-G arena. As she turned to lead him to the next challenge, Leo couldn't help but feel a strange sense of exhilaration. Sure, he was still in way over his head, but something about this bizarre, intergalactic court and its enigmatic queen was starting to grow on him that as they left the stellar gardens. Leo followed Queen Galaxara through the palace's sprawling corridors, trying to keep his nerves in check. The zero-G arena loomed ahead, its name alone enough to make him sweat. He had never been great at physical challenges, unless you counted trying to haul a bag of groceries up 3 flights of stairs. But with Queen Galaxara, he had a feeling this was going to be a little more intense. As they entered the arena, Leo's jaw dropped. The space was massive, a spherical chamber with glowing platforms suspended in midair. The entire arena shimmered as if gravity itself had taken a day off. Strange obstacles floated lazily in the air. Some looked like spinning rings of energy, others like strange, floating rocks. Everything seemed to defy logic. The Queen turned to him with a teasing smile. This challenge will test your adaptability in an environment without gravity. You will need to jump, navigate, and retrieve something from the far side of the arena. But be warned, she added, her smile growing sly, the arena likes to shift its obstacles. It won't be the same path twice. Leo raised an eyebrow. So, I'm basically playing a cosmic game of the floor is lava but in space? Fantastic. Galaxara chuckled softly. Precisely. Do try not to fall into the void. No pressure at all. Leo swallowed and stepped forward onto the first floating platform, instantly feeling his body begin to lose its grip on gravity. His feet lifted off the surface, and his arms flailed wildly as he floated up into the air, spinning slightly. Okay, I can do this, Leo muttered to himself, trying to stabilize. He reached for a nearby floating rock and grabbed hold, pulling himself towards the next platform. It was like trying to swim through the air, every movement exaggerated and slow. Behind him, Galaxara watched with a mix of amusement and curiosity, her arms folded. You're doing better than most Earthlings, she called out, her voice playful. Yeah, well, I played a lot of video games as a kid, Leo shouted back, as he narrowly avoided a glowing ring that spun dangerously close to his head. I knew they'd come in handy one day. As Leo made his way across the arena, the obstacles became more complex. A series of floating, spinning hoops appeared in his path, and he had to time his jumps perfectly to avoid being knocked into the abyss. The air crackled with energy, and he could feel his pulse racing in his ears. At one point, a platform he was aiming for suddenly shifted position, and he had to frantically grab a floating rock to stop himself from tumbling into the void below. Not bad. Galaxara's voice echoed through the arena, though Leo couldn't tell if she was genuinely impressed or just enjoying watching him struggle. Not bad, Leo muttered under his breath, pulling himself up onto another platform. I'm practically a space ninja right now. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of dodging and weaving through the zero-gravity obstacles, Leo reached the far side of the arena. There, floating in the air, was the prize, a glowing spherical object that pulsed with a soft, ethereal light. He reached out and grabbed it, feeling a strange warmth flow through his fingers. The moment he touched the sphere, the entire arena seemed to shift. Gravity reasserted itself, and Leo felt himself slam down onto the platform with an ungraceful thud. He groaned, clutching the glowing object as he struggled to his feet. Galaxara glided over to him, her feet not touching the ground, her multiple arms moving with a fluid grace. You've done well, she said, her tone soft but pleased. Not many make it through the zero-G arena on their first try. Leo wiped the sweat from his forehead, trying to catch his breath. Yeah, well, I like to keep things interesting. Gotta say, though, this is way more intense than Earth Dodgeball. The Queen chuckled again, her eyes twinkling with amusement. You've proven you can adapt to challenges, Leo. But now it is time for the final test of the day. Leo gulped, looking at her cautiously. Final test? Please tell me it involves sitting down and eating snacks. Not quite, she said, a playful gleam in her eyes. We'll have our personal dinner shortly. But first, she leaned in slightly, her voice lowering to a silky tone. I wish to show you something special. Something only a chosen few have ever seen. Leo blinked, suddenly unsure of where this was going. Okay. Do I need a helmet or something? Galaxara's smile grew, and with a gesture, she signaled for the attendants to leave them alone. The giant chamber doors slid closed, leaving the two of them standing in the vast, now empty arena. She turned back to Leo, her expression unreadable. I have observed many species across the galaxies, she began, her voice taking on a more serious tone. But humans, your kind is different. You possess something that the other races do not. Leo raised an eyebrow, wondering if she was about to compliment his sense of humor. What do you mean? Galaxara stepped closer, her towering figure looming over him but not in a threatening way. There was something almost intimate about the way she looked at him. Humans have a strange capacity for emotional connection. You call it love. Leo swallowed hard. Is this happening? Am I having the talk with an alien queen right now? Asterisk asterisk. Yeah, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Love's kind of a big deal on Earth. Also causes a lot of problems, but we won't get into that. The queen tilted her head, her expression curious. It is a concept that fascinates me. Among my people, relationships are often transactional, alliances, power, strategy. But love, as you describe it, is different. It is unpredictable, illogical, yet powerful. Leo rubbed the back of his neck, feeling both awkward and intrigued by the conversation. Yeah, that's love for you. Messy, confusing, but when it works, it's, pretty amazing. Galaxara's eyes flickered with something he couldn't quite place. Tell me, Leo, she asked softly, have you ever been in love? Leo blinked, caught off guard by the sudden personal question. He hesitated, thinking back to his life on Earth. There had been a few relationships, sure, but nothing that lasted. Nothing that ever felt like the real deal. Well, I've had a few close calls, he admitted, scratching his head. But, still searching, I guess. The queen's gaze didn't waver, and Leo couldn't help but feel like she was studying him more deeply than anyone ever had before. Perhaps, she mused, you have not yet met the right one. Leo cleared his throat, feeling a strange mix of excitement and anxiety building in his chest. Yeah, maybe. But, no pressure, right? Galaxara smiled again, but this time it wasn't just playful. It was almost inviting. No pressure, she repeated, her voice soft and alluring. For now. Before Leo could respond, the doors of the arena slid open once more, and the attendants reappeared, signaling that it was time for the dinner. The queen straightened, her regal composure returning. I will see you at the table, Leo, she said, turning to leave. Rest assured, our conversation is far from over. Leo watched her go, his mind spinning. What just happened? Did the alien queen just imply something? As he followed the attendants to the dining hall, Leo couldn't help but wonder what the next part of this bizarre, interstellar adventure would hold. Whatever it was, it felt like things were only getting more complicated, and maybe a little more personal. As Leo entered the grand dining hall, he couldn't help but feel the weight of the moment. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The room was bathed in the soft glow of strange alien candles, their flames flickering in mesmerizing shades of violet and gold. The ceiling, like the rest of the palace, shimmered with starlight, making it feel as if they were dining among the stars. At the far end of the table, Queen Galaxara stood, waiting for him. She looked radiant, her regal form draped in flowing, opalescent robes that seemed to shift colors with her every movement. Her forearms rested gracefully at her sides, her eyes locked on Leo as he approached. The room was empty, save for the two of them, adding a strange intimacy to the scene. This wasn't just a dinner, it was something much more. Leo, Galaxara greeted, her voice smooth and inviting. "I'm glad you've come. Please sit." He slid into the chair across from her, trying to maintain his composure. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, or, well, multiple worlds." Galaxara smiled, clearly amused by his attempts at humor. With a wave of her hand, plates of exotic, shimmering dishes appeared before them, each one more vibrant and alien than the last. Though Leo had no idea what most of the food was, he could tell that this dinner wasn't really about the meal. There was a tension in the air, something unspoken lingering between them. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes, the clinking of utensils the only sound in the room. Leo finally gathered the courage to speak. "So," he said, looking up at her, "about what you said earlier? You're really curious about love?" Galaxara set down her utensil and leaned forward slightly, her gaze intense but not intimidating. "I am. It is one of the few emotions that transcends species. Even across galaxies, in some form or another, love exists. But among humans it seems different, deeper. It intrigues me." Leo nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "It's unpredictable, that's for sure. Can be messy, painful even. But when it's real, it's worth it." She regarded him with a curious expression, her luminous eyes narrowing just slightly. "You speak of it as if you have experienced it." Leo chuckled softly, shaking his head. "Not really. I mean, I've come close, but I've never found that real connection, you know? Someone who just gets you." Galaxara tilted her head, her voice softening. "Perhaps you have not yet allowed yourself to be truly seen, Leo." He blinked, taken aback by her insight. "What do you mean?" She rose from her seat and moved closer to him, her presence overwhelming yet gentle. "Humans often hide behind their words, their humor. You are no different. But I see through that. You mask your vulnerability, your fear of not being enough. But in truth, you are more than enough." Leo's breath caught in his throat. He had never heard anyone speak to him like this, let alone an alien queen from a distant galaxy. Her words touched something deep inside him, something he hadn't even realized he had been hiding. "You don't even know me," he whispered, though his voice lacked conviction. Galaxara smiled, her expression soft and almost tender. "I know more than you think. I have seen countless beings, Leo, across countless worlds. And yet you are different. You are not like the others who come here seeking power, fame, or alliances. You are here, not by choice, but you have embraced the unknown with humor, with heart." She reached out, one of her 4 hands gently resting on his. Her touch was warm, soothing, and for a moment, Leo forgot that she was an alien queen towering over him. There was something deeply personal about the way she looked at him, as if she truly saw him, not just as an Earthling but as a person. "I admire that," she continued, her voice soft. "And I admire you." Leo's heart pounded in his chest. He had never expected this kind of connection, not here, not like this. But as he looked into Galaxara's eyes, he realized that maybe he had been searching for something, someone, without even knowing it. And here she was, from a world so far beyond his own that it didn't even make sense. But somehow it felt right. "You're not like anyone I've ever met either," Leo admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I mean, clearly," he added with a laugh, trying to break the tension, but his heart was racing for real now. Galaxara smiled at his awkwardness, her gaze never wavering. She stepped closer, her towering figure somehow delicate in the way she moved, until she stood directly before him. She gently lifted his chin with one of her hands, her eyes searching his. "I could show you more, Leo," she said softly, her voice a low hum. "More than you've ever known. We could explore the stars together, learn from each other. If you wish." Leo's pulse quickened. Was this happening? Was he actually falling for an alien queen in the middle of a galactic palace? Asterisk asterisk. And yet, there was something about Galaxara, something that transcended the fact that she was an alien. She understood him in ways no one else ever had. Her power, her grace, her curiosity. It wasn't just about the stars or the galaxy. It was about her. And maybe, just maybe, it was about them. He swallowed hard, standing to meet her gaze. "What if I said yes?" Galaxara's eyes lit up, a soft glow radiating from her as she leaned in closer, her lips hovering just inches from his. Then, Leo, she whispered, her voice like velvet, we begin an adventure that no human has ever known. You would not just be an Earthling to me. You would be my equal. Leo's heart raced as he realized the enormity of what she was offering. This wasn't just some casual fling. This was something far deeper. Partnership, a bond, an adventure that stretched across galaxies. And in that moment, standing in the glow of 1,000 alien stars, Leo smiled, his heart light and full. Then let's start that adventure, he whispered. His voice steady, together, Galaxara's smile grew, radiant and genuine, and in one smooth motion, she leaned in and kissed him. The kiss was gentle but electric, as if the universe itself had aligned just for this moment. Time seemed to stand still, the weight of the stars fading into the background as the connection between them blossomed into something real, something undeniable. When they finally pulled away, Leo felt breathless but whole. Galaxara looked at him with a mixture of warmth and excitement, her eyes twinkling with possibilities. Then it is decided, she said softly. We shall explore the galaxies together, and just like that, Leo realized that his life would never be the same. He had come to this strange, faraway place by accident, but now, with Galaxara by his side, he was no longer an outsider.